Richard Head claimed Mother Shipton accurately predicted the Spanish Armada, the Great Plague, and the London Fire of 1666, because he was writing about these events years after the fact. Scholars call his technique post-diction instead of prediction.
Prediction, of course, you're supposedly making statements about the future. With post-diction, you're just going backwards in time and predicting it after the fact, which, of course, is no prediction at all.
But there is a strange twist to this story. Even if Richard Head made up the predictions of Mother Shipton in the 1600s, many of his future predictions eventually came true.
In the air men shall be seen. Around the world thoughts will fly in the twinkling of an eye. Women dress like men and trousers wear, and cut off all their locks of hair. Mother Shipton.
Did the hoaxer Richard Head somehow tap into some kind of oracular vision himself while writing the prophecies? Or was he working from an actual prophetic book which has been lost to history?
When an editor, such as the man who edited the prophecies of Mother Shipton, works on something, he usually doesn't fabricate the whole cloth. They are based on things that were originally oral tradition prophecies. And that's why I think some of them have come true.
In Mother Shipton's prophecies, this era of global progress will be followed by something quite different.
Then half the world, deep drenched in blood, shall die.
Were Mother Shipton and Merlin foreseeing the same doomsday as the Mayans and the I Ching? Some believe these prophecies are echoed in the most famous prophetic work of all time, the Bible. From the Mayan calendar to the wizard Merlin to predictions delivered by the internet, the year 2012 looms as a prophetic doomsday. But the threat of apocalypse also comes from a more familiar source, the Bible. The Bible's track record for accurate prophecy is legendary. The prophet Jeremiah predicted that Jerusalem would be conquered by Babylon, and it was. Jesus predicted Jerusalem would be destroyed by the Romans, and it was. The book of Revelation predicts apocalyptic warfare in the distant future, and some say it is happening now.
The book of Revelation, in its style, in its content, in its language, is not greatly different from the prophecies of other ancient cultures, including the Mayan culture, including the Egyptian culture, including the Native American culture.
The author of Revelation had a vision of doom that has shaken the world to this day. His name was John.
There's an entire book of prophecy, the book of Revelation, and it is the contents of it are this sort of dream vision that the Apostle John receives while in exile on the Isle of Patmos. And the entire book is this prophecy of a coming apocalypse, of the end of the world, the final battle of good versus evil.
The book of Revelation is filled with terrifying and bizarre images. Flying creatures with streaming hair making the noise of 1,000 horses. Self-propelled chariots belching flames. He sees diseases that kill 1/4 of the earth. John foresees a period of global warfare centered in the Middle East. He sees the rise of a terrifying demonic world leader called the Antichrist. The book of Revelation foresees all this as simply a prelude to the end of the world.
It's so very, very detailed, but it's also so strange that we feel a need to attach it to stuff that we know of. We're fascinated with the idea of apocalypse, and in Revelation we've got some sort of a blueprint for it, and so we sort of project those fears onto it and try to figure it out. We try to crack the code.
But some biblical scholars question the direct connection between Revelation and today's headlines.
It's clear John of Patmos did expect the imminent end of the world, and it's been nearly 2,000 years, so I don't think he meant it for our time. I don't think he thought it was going to last that long.
Many biblical scholars today believe that the book of Revelation was a coded message, but the codes referred to John's own time. One example can be found in the ominous number 666. The book of Revelation calls the number the mark of the beast. Some have theorized that 666 is a numerological code for the Antichrist, a modern demonic world leader.
We look in vain for 666 at the present day. There is no 666 at the present day. 666 was an emperor who lived a long time ago.
The number 666 may actually be a reference to the Greek name for the Emperor Nero. Nero was a notorious persecutor of Christians, and the numerological equivalent of Emperor Nero's name adds up exactly to 666.
The story that is told that has to do with the beast and with the mark of the beast and so on has to do not with our day, not with the future, but that story has to do with the Roman period, what is happening at that time, with the emperors at that time, with the bestiality of that time.
But believers say that the descriptions in Revelation are disturbingly similar to doomsday prophecies of 2012. Armies the size of modern nation-states. Weapons unimaginable in ancient times. Deadly plagues only discovered recently.
Our Bible teaches us one day it's all going to end in fire and brimstone. And so we are trained, we are taught as a culture to look for the imminent end.
If John was referring to a series of catastrophes in the modern era, he was not alone. Centuries later, and on the other side of the world, Native American oracles would predict a similar countdown to doomsday. In the 1890s, a Lakota Sioux shaman named Black Elk had a series of apocalyptic dreams.
Black Elk had certain visions in which he seemed to think that his people were going to kind of suffer and kind of defeat.
His visions brought about an Indian movement called the Ghost Dance, a ritual that they thought would restore the Indian nation to its glory. Instead, the army mistook the sacred dance as an Indian uprising.
The United States Army sent out troops to crush out the Sioux ghost dancers, precisely because they represented such a spooky threat.